Okay, picture the scene. It's prom night. The one night that your entire adolescence has revolved around from day one. Your hot date is waiting for you, and this is the night when you're about to become a man. This is the one night that's going to cement your place in society. With all that taken into consideration, would you turn up to that prom dressed in a Speedo? A banana hammock? No, of course you wouldn't. What you would do is you would actually inject a bit of thought into what you were going to wear, and potentially dress to kill. So why oh why would going into a battle type situation be any different from that? If you're going to go in, you go in all guns blazing with the biggest and baddest gun possible. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the HAMR light machine gun, or as I like to call it, the HAMR. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's no confusion there. I understand that banging nails into pieces of wood with this thing would be about as effective as maybe, I don't know, eating your dinner with a pitchfork. This self-professed tank is what I consider to be the best kept secret in Black Ops 2. You just don't see anybody using it. And I'm going to be absolutely 100% honest with you. This game is starting to slightly bore me a little. It generally is a maybe 3 to 4 gun game. And don't get me wrong, I've kind of fallen into that trap myself. When I scan through my custom class setups, it's kind of like a Scooby-Doo scene where they're running away from the enemy, yet in the backdrop it's the same scene repeated over and over again. MSMC, PDW, Remington, MSMC, PDW, Remington, MSMC, PDW, Remington, and so on and so forth. But my feeling is that sometimes it's worthwhile pulling yourself away from the crowd. Don't be a sheep, try something a little bit different, you never know, you just might like it. Now the setup I've opted for in particular is the HAMR with a suppressor, the standard red dot sight or holographic or whatever it's called, and a foregrip. It does the job at close range with the hip fire, it doesn't take too much away, and at long range it's deadly. And the reason for that being is that it possesses one characteristic that not any other gun in Black Ops 2 has, and that is controlled fire. Let me put it like this, if you have an enemy at long distance who's head glitching behind a barrel, and you want to take him out, but what you don't want is your gun to jump up and down like a rabid donkey. And what this gun lets you do is hold onto the trigger, and something special happens. The fire rate slows down considerably like a heroin addict's heart rate after his first hit, thus enabling you to have a little bit more control over those kills. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the other reasons as to why I believe that this gun is a barrel of fun in itself, is the fact that you can play around with pretty much any attachment you want. And I think that it would be fair to say that my favourite attachment is the dual band scope. I mean, just look at it. It's kind of like I'm preparing to go to war holding the illegitimate love child of the Terminator. I think that it's fair to say that if somebody approached me holding this contraption, I'd pretty much tell him everything he wanted to know. You're just not going to hold anything back. Now, there's looking the part, and then there's acting the part. So does this stand up to everything that it represents? Of course it does. Beware, ladies and jelly spoons, for I have a handheld Apache helicopter. The enemy calls in a death machine? Not a problem. I've got my own little death machine. Except for the beauty of this death machine is I didn't have to use up one of my score streak slots. This I would probably say is my first experience of using anything night vision related in this game, and I can safely say that it's a thumbs up from me. You see, before when people would light up like a Christmas tree, but those who were wearing things like Cold-Blooded and Assassin would completely stay off the radar. Now they don't seem to, it seems to give you a little bit. So with that out of the way, we've talked about the do's, now let's talk about the don'ts. The taboos, the things that you should probably steer clear of. The ACOG scope. Now the one thing I'm going to say, and I know people might disagree with it, but this is my own personal belief, the ACOG scope in any of these games for me is pointless. It takes away everything that's good and beneficial about a gun and makes it into a dustbin. For example, the control you get over this HAMR is absolutely second to none. At long range you can pretty much pick people off with pinpoint accuracy and a very low amount of recoil, thus going back to the heroin addict's heartbeat. The fire rate slows down, therefore giving you an advantage and more of a possibility to get that impossible shot off. So what happens when you put an ACOG scope on the gun? It adds recoil. It also adds a sense of tunnel vision. So once you look down the scope, you're kind of oblivious to everything else that's going on around you. So for me, putting an ACOG scope on this gun would be as pointless and detrimental to the value of it as, I don't know, putting a Super Mario costume on a model in a photo shoot for Miss World or something. Absolutely pointless, and you don't mess with perfection. That is, not unless that perfection imposes you in any way, shape or form. I mean, let's be honest. Let's say, for example, your girlfriend, partner or wife invites you round to those people that you know but don't like for dinner. The problem is they're an absolutely smashing couple, but they just can't stop talking about everything they've got and all the money they have in the world. And the scene leading up to the place of the crime takes part when the partner is in the bathroom telling you about his new Versace sponge. It was bought from the Versace shop in Italy, cost €65, and apparently there's only 35 made in the world. Absolute perfection in a sponge. The problem is I refuse for anybody to tell me that the way you deal with that person's persistent gloating is not to go into the bathroom when you've had a few drinks, take out your testicles and rub them along the top of the sponge, knowing all too well that phase 1 of wash time in the shower is going to start with the face. Yes? No? I don't know. Maybe it's just me then. Anyway, that's me just about done. It's time to get myself back to the mental institution. But I hope you found something good and helpful in this commentary. Nothing would please me more than to see some people experimenting with a few different things instead of the same old same old. Or maybe it would. Maybe I should have kept this commentary to myself. It could have been my delicious secret. Ah well, the cat's out the bag now. I'll see you later, guys. Apocalypse done.